As Americans contend with sky-high gas prices, oil companies are cashing in and posting massive profits. This latest quarter, Exxon made more than $17 billion. That breaks down to more than $2,200 per second, which is more than many Americans make in a single paycheck. To put it another way, in the 2 minutes it takes a person to pump 20 gallons of gas, Exxon Mobil has pocketed more than $250,000. With me now to talk about this is the former Labor Secretary Robert Reich, who is the author of the system, Who Rigged and How We Fixed It. Who rigged it and how we fixed it? Robert Reich, Secretary Reich, great to see you again. You tweeted about this and said this is absolutely what an oligarchy looks like. And we talked to you about this several weeks ago when you said, hold on a second, you know, these oil and gas companies are just running off with record profits. And here we have the numbers to say that's exactly what's going on. So what's the solution?
Well, the solution, Jim, is exactly what the conservative government in Britain has done. In fact, many other European governments have followed in their wake in imposing a windfall profits tax on the oil companies that essentially removes their incentive for jacking up prices so much higher than their actual costs. You see, that's where these profits are coming from. It's the gap between what the oil companies are actually paying for crude and what they're actually selling their gas at the pump is. And that keeps on growing. That's why they're making so much money. It's not just Chevron and Exxon, the biggest U.S. oil producers and gas pump producers, but it's also Shell. Many of these other worldwide oil companies are raking it in and on the backs of consumers.
And in the meantime, as you know, President Biden is trying to ease fears about a possible recession coming upon us after numbers show the U.S. economy shrank for the second quarter in a row. Let's listen to what the president had to say about it.
We have a record job market of record unemployment of 3.6% today. We've created 9 million new jobs so far just since I became president. Businesses are investing in America at record rates. That doesn't sound like a recession to me.
Now, a new CNN poll that came out before all of these grim numbers found 64% of Americans think that we're already in a recession, and that majority holds across Republicans, Democrats, Independents. What do you think about this, Secretary Reich? Are we talking ourselves into a recession? Are we talking about it so much that we're convincing ourselves that we're in a recession, and so people are pulling back on spending and so on? What do you think?
Well, there's always a danger of a self-fulfilling prophecy when you're talking about economics and specifically recessions. But actually, most Americans have a pretty good idea of what's going on for them. And what is going on for them is that although their paychecks may be increasing, the price of most stuff they're buying is increasing even faster. So the net result is that they are getting poorer. And that's really the issue here. It's not the number of jobs. It's the fact that inflation is taking away whatever pay increases American workers have been enjoying. And that's the nub of the problem. That's why inflation has got to be trimmed. But it's also why big companies that are pushing up prices because they can get away with it, they have so much market power, really are at the root of the problem. And as the Fed continues to raise interest rates to slow the economy, the irony may be that the people who are hurt most are average working Americans who either lose their jobs or face higher and higher interest rates on everything from credit cards to their mortgages.
And Secretary Reich, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Joe Manchin, they reached a surprise energy and health care deal. This took a lot of people by surprise here in Washington. It's a big package, $369 billion in legislation that would do a lot of things. One of those would be making the biggest climate investment in U.S. history, allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices, also extend Obamacare subsidies for 3 years. How much of this will help bring down inflation and perhaps get this under control and maybe prevent a recession from taking place? What are your thoughts?
Jim, it will help, undoubtedly. It's a huge victory for the Democrats if, in fact, it can get through the Senate. Now, we don't know that for a fact. I mean, Joe Manchin is not the only senator that's been holding up the works. But if it gets through, even the tax increases on the wealthy and on big corporations will help. You've got a 15% minimum tax on corporations. That means that you are going to have a slight downward effect on demand, and inflation is a product of too much demand and too little supply. So even the tax part of it is going to help.
And you previously made a pitch to Democrats that maybe it's time to kick Joe Manchin out of the Democratic Party. What do you think, Mr. Secretary? Did this deal change your mind? Are your eyes now on a senator from Arizona?
Well, let's find out whether we get this actually through. This could be the largest single climate initiative passed in the United States history at a time when most Americans are directly or indirectly feeling the effects of climate change. So if Joe Manchin, regardless of how he has acted in the past, if he champions this and follows through, now, again, I say if, because there have been several times before, Jim, you know as well as I, that Joe Manchin has said one thing and then at the last minute he's done something completely different. But if he follows through, and also if Kyrsten Sinema gets on board and the Democrats get this done, a huge plus.
Yeah, they've got their eyes on the rugs over at the White House to make sure they're not pulled out from under them at this point. No question about it. All right, Secretary Robert Reich, thanks very much for your time. We'll get you back here soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim.